Hi guys, we are on Module 4, Lesson 13, and our aim is how do we multiply unit fractions by unit fractions. So let's get started. Jan has half a pan of crispy rice treats. She sends half of the pan to school with her children. How much of the pan of crispy rice treats does Jan send to school? So basically, we're trying to find out what is half of half, because she has a half and she sends a half. The answer is 1/4, which I'm sure a lot of you can just do in your head. However, we need to understand why when you're multiplying a fraction by a fraction, you get a smaller fraction, something of less value. So let's look at it. So here's our whole. The square represents the whole. Then I cut it in half. Okay, so now she had the half. Now I cut that in half again. Okay, so here's half of a half. So half, this should be a half. Sorry about that. Hold on a sec. So half of a half is the same as saying half times a half, and 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. So if you look at the model, you can see very clearly that it's 1/4. If you notice what I did here, I multiplied the 1 by 1 and the 2 times 2, which gets me 1/4. So multiplying fractions is really simple. You multiply the numerators and you multiply the denominators and you have your answer. So let's go. We're going to continue working with Jan. So let's see what she does next. So now she has 1/3 of a pan of her treats and she sends half of that pan to school. So how much does she have to send to school? So half of the pan. So she started with a 1/3. So what we're looking for is what is half of a 1/3. So again, I drew you guys a model. Here's her whole thing. And she has 1/3 of it, right? And then she sends the half of that to school. So if you look at it, I probably should have made the dotted lines for you here. So if you look at it, there's sixths is what I end up with because the half and the 1/3 combined give you sixths. So if you see what I did here, 1/2 of 1/3 is 1/2 times 1/3, which is 1/6, because it's 1 times 1 is 1 and 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, so that's really all there is to it. So I'm showing you the model so it's clear and you understand it in your head. And then I'm just doing the algorithm and the straight computation. Next one. Here we go again. Jan has 1/3 and she sends 1/4. So now we're looking for 1/4 of 1/3. So I cut this into thirds and then I cut it again into fourths. So how many pieces do I have? I have 12. So if I look at this without even doing any calculations, I know the answer is going to be 1/12. And then if I write it down, I have 1/4 of 1/3, which means 1/4 times 1/3, which means 1/12, because 1 times 1 is 1, 4 times 3 is 12, and the picture proves that I am right. Moving on. Okay, this is actually one of your problem set problems. It's number 2, and it says draw models of 3 times 1/4 and 1/3 times 1/4 and compare multiplying by 3 and by 1/3. So here I'm multiplying by 3. So I cut the square into fourths. I have 3 of them. So 3 times 1/4 is 3/4, and there you have it. Now I'm doing 1/3 times 1/4. So again, I have thirds. Then I cut it into fourths, and I have this little section That's 1/3 times 1/4, and it equals 1/12. So that's how I'm comparing it. It's like a one illustration here, one illustration here, and then the algorithm here and the algorithm here, and that's fine for comparison. It's not asking you to write about your thinking. It's just asking you to compare them. And I did that with both area models and algorithms. So here we're going to just do some practice problems because this really isn't anything that is very involved. So 1/2 times 1/6 equals 1/12 because 1 times 1 is 1 and 2 times 6 is 12. 3/4 times 7/8 is 21/32 because 3 times 7 is 21 and 4 times 8 is 32. 5/6 times 2/7 is 10/42 because 5 times 2 is 10 and 6 times 7 is 42. I can then divide both of those numbers by 2, so I could reduce it if I want to, and divide 10 by 2 and I get 5, and 42 by 2 and I get 21. The last one is 8/9 times 2/3. 8 times 2 is 16. 9 times 3 is 27, so my answer is 16/27. So what you're doing is multiplying the two numerators and then multiplying the two denominators for your new fractional answer. Okay? So you're going to do the whole problem set. You do not need to draw area models unless you choose to. And here are your answers to check yourself when you are done. Okay? I will see you tomorrow.